This is the KT Podcast, the ins and outs of Star Wars. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We are the KT Podcast. I'm your host, Chaos. I'm with my good buddy Tristan again. And today we are going to be talking about the Star Wars video games. Basically, we're just going to be talking about the games that have been released. And then as a second part, we're going to be talking about the games we kind of want to see, like future Star Wars games. Isn't that right, Tristan?
Yep.
So, I guess, you obviously come prepared. I kind of just wing it half the time. So, why don't you start off with your list of what kind of games you have been released that you kind of like the ones that shined out to you.
Well, I think it would be a good way to start with the Battlefront games. We had one come out in 2004, the best one come out in 2005, and then we had to wait 10 years for one that was okay, and then one that was pretty good, depending on who you ask.
Well, for the as a personal player of who's played the first and second one, the older ones, I played a little bit of the first of the new one, and not really much because I like storylines and I like single player stories, and that really didn't appeal to me, so I never really played it. But then, of course, like Battlefront 2, I really enjoyed that, and that was something that I was able to do because it had a story to it, and it was actually a good story, too.
Yeah, the 501st Journal was amazing, and Tamara Morrison did such a good job on it. Operation Nightfall is still one of my favorite parts of any Star Wars game.
Yeah, the whole storyline, especially in Battlefront 2, like we're talking about the original two, Battlefront and Battlefront 2, because both of them had storylines. The only one that didn't have the storyline was Battlefront, like the 14 it came out.
15.
15. Okay, yeah, that one didn't have a storyline, which I kind of was disappointed at because that's, I think, to me what really propelled those games.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing that it didn't have it because it was their first attempt at the series after 10 years of not having a new game. So a lot of the things were forgivable. I think the base game for 2015, the gunplay and things like that were pretty good. There were other things that seemed way too arcadey, and I think overall it's a $20 game that was priced way too high, especially with DLCs being about $20 each. The only one I ever bought was Rogue One because Scarif is amazing.
Yeah, no, I've never really been interested in the DLC stuff. So, and I mean, in a way, the Battlefront game, like the new one, the first one, kind of, I mean, like it low key confirmed Boba Fett's fate, and it's technically canon because of it. So, like,
I think it happened about the same time that the Aftermath books said that someone found old Mando armor that was abandoned and covered in like acid or something like that. So it was around the same time. So I think that's pretty cool coordination.
oh yeah, and exactly. So
Even if
that's
it's throwaway line in a trailer or something like that, it's still pretty cool to think about. But the first game in 2004, that's the one that I've played the least of, but
I
really.
remember it very clearly. Like it did have a lot of the older maps. Like it had Yavin 4. The gameplay was meh, but again, it was 2004. Um, it's a vague familiar to me memory, but whereas the 2005, that one is the one that was the first time it introduced heroes. So like the Jedi and stuff and Yoda,
Yeah,
Obi-Wan. So you finally could have because it didn't have Grievous at the time. I don't. No, it did. It did have Grievous. So you literally could have Grievous versus Darth Vader. So but the heroes were only meant for different levels. So depending on which side you chose and which era you chose on which planet, that would be the hero available. So of course the Tantive 4 um, level, if you play the Rebels, then you have Leia or Darth Vader.
Yeah,
So
2005 was the bullseye for the Battlefront series. Compared to now, the AI doesn't really hold up, and some of the graphics they've aged well in certain spots, and other ones they don't very seem good. But overall, I think it's still the best of the Battlefront games. Uh, it also introduced the space battles, which are amazing.
yeah, my friend hated me whenever we played Space Battles because somehow, and I don't know why, I would always be able to hunt him down. And even if he came behind me, I was able to spin around and get away from him and somehow end up behind him and shoot him. He got so mad. He's like, "How do you do that?" So he always made a gun for my main ship and would blow it up from the inside.
Yeah, that's the best tactic is to just load up a gunship, fly in there, and blow everything up with a marine.
Pretty much.
Yeah, the space battles, there are a few like nitpicks that I always had about like which ship was used for what,
Hmm.
but other than that, like that didn't really matter. The V-wing was supposed to be an interceptor, but it was the bomber of all things. It made no sense, but whoopee.
Well, it also depended on who you chose. If you chose the gunner or the pilot, because it's not very well known, but the pilot actually repairs your health if you get shot,
Yeah,
and that's what I noticed that I was like, oh, that's kind of cool because with the gunner it didn't, but the pilot it would heal your health over time.
there are
So
a few that I never did find out about Battlefront 2 until like years later when I played it on the computer. I used to play it on the Xbox, and with
hmm
a controller I can destroy everything. On average, I think I had 70 kills, 0 deaths for every round, but on the computer it is significantly harder. But
yeah.
I thought more about the game when I played it on Steam because I just was able to pay more attention to things, I guess.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing. Like when you get those kill streaks, like with a blaster, and you get the advanced blaster and stuff. My friend played it so much that he would automatically like if you get that award so many times, you actually get that as a starter. So literally, he would just do a blaster, take one shot, and I'm dead because the advanced blaster was 3 shots. And they come in so fast, it literally is like a one shot kill like 90% of the time.
Yeah, the award rifle being a 3 round burst was insane. That was the only one that I got on a regular basis. The other ones were a lot more difficult for me to get.
Yeah. So,
But what else was there? Oh yeah, in the 2004 Battlefront, that's the only one where you can lay prone, which I thought was cool, and where you can fly gunships
Sounds
around
good.
and land on certain parts of the map,
Sounds
which
good.
is something that I wish they would have brought back for 2017. But instead, the gunship for 2017 is just you're in one of the bubble turrets, so it's cool, but I would have preferred to actually use it as a transport.
yeah, it's been a while since I played the Battlefront 2 game because I do have it. Because I got it when it went on sale for like $25, and then realized that my computer couldn't even handle it, so I had to literally wait 6 to 8 months in order for me to actually play it. And then I just did the story. I've yet to do any of the multiplayer
Yeah, I
because
think the story is really good. There are a few missed opportunities, and I think that it could have improved somewhat, but what we have, I think, was done really well.
well,
I
it
like.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say that like it's because I think I read most of Battlefront 2 Elite Squadron where like you follow the main characters of Battlefront 2 like the ones I can't remember their name. I didn't Versio. Um like when you follow them in the storyline, you also get a brief history from the books, and I thought that was kind of cool. to get that all mixed up together and just really tell of why she turned to the rebels and stuff.
Yeah, the Inferno Squad novel, we find out Iden was the TIE pilot with the most kills during the Battle of Yavin, and
And the only
she,
survivor.
yeah, one of them.
Yeah.
But I think that Iden's defection was done well, but I think Dell's defection was done better. He actually had more time to ask questions, and like he met Luke and talked to him for a bit. It was really cool, and worked with him for a mission. And I think that if there were a few more missions in the game before they defected where Iden becomes like more skeptical and jaded and like disillusioned, and then they defect, I think that would have been a lot better, because from the beginning it was advertised as an Imperial story, and I think one of the trailers even had her giving a speech on Starkiller Base. So it's pretty funny.
Well, I mean, trailers nowadays are so like you can't trust them. I mean, look at what Marvel's done with all their trailers, like how many misdirections they do. Like the editing team must be like paid really well.
But the uh, there are a lot of things that Battlefront 2017 has done well. A lot of content they've done. I think they're great ideas, but I just personally don't like how the game plays myself. If it played pretty similar to how 2015 played, then I think it would be a lot more fun, because the most fun I've had with 2017 were during the beta and like the day Geonosis came out. That was well over a year ago now. Those were the two best days of Battlefront 2017's lifespan for me, where I had the most fun and actually enjoyed playing it. But for the vast majority of the time, it's just the core gameplay isn't that much fun to me. But a lot of the things they've done, like they brought the Saber tank back into the spotlight. They've got like a U-wing gunner, which is only available for one phase of one map in Galactic Assault, which is hilarious. They brought the ARC Trooper, the Republic Commando, the Death Troopers. For like 2 years, the only light side enforcer was the Wookiee warrior, but they finally fixed that. Um, Capital Supremacy is really cool. The Resistance First Order mode is kind of fun. I like how they've updated the First Order Jet Trooper to be how they appear in Rise of Skywalker, and it is so much fun flying around with those guys, but they are very overpowered. Last I played, I just the BB-8 and BB-9E are really cool. I just don't really like the Resistance reinforcement units, the Ovisian Gunner and the Kathex Spy, I think they're called. They're kind of meh. I haven't really had much fun with them. I haven't used the Sith Trooper enough to really get an opinion about them, but it they look cool and their guns are cool, but I mean, they just seem annoying whenever I get killed by them. So other than that, I have no opinion about them.
Well, like I said, I've only played the storyline and I don't think I even completed it fully. So you got the more experience on that one for the multiplayer.
Yeah,
Okay, another game that's we'll move on to the next game. And for me, that would be the Star Wars or Star Wars Episode One Pod Racers, which I mean, people can hate on the prequels all they want. They can hate on the Phantom Menace, but let's face it, without the Phantom Menace, we wouldn't have had this awesome game. Like the pod racing itself, and I literally just played it and thought to myself, like, how easy was it? Like, I thought it was difficult as a child, but no, I flew by through everything. I literally changed, I think it was two two or something pod racers. I always did Anakin, and then I did oh, what is his name? The guy in episode one that got that Sebulba threw the wrench into the guy's engine. That guy,
ooh,
and because he had an awesome looking pod, and then Neva Key, the One Piece pod racer. once I got him, I was like, yeah, smooth sailing for the rest because literally just smoke the crowd. The only level I've always had difficult with was the very last level where you have to watch it because it's two levels. Um, if you fall down to the second level, like you're in last place instantly. Like good luck catching up because not only is it so much longer, but you actually have to go through another whole loop, and it's stupid. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, and it came out with like 20 something new levels. I mean, you can do reverse as well. Like you can do the whole map reverse. They had like three different versions of the Boonta Eve Classic. They had like speedways. They had most of the characters from the actual movie, all having their own like this is their course kind of thing. Like the Boonta Classic is obviously Sebulba's course. Anakin had a new interesting course. Like you got to really see some of the interesting aspects of it, and even the racing itself. Like there's actually a point where you're literally flying in midair and you're avoiding space rocks.
Yeah.
Like so, I couldn't like again. Some of the levels are like really hard to pinpoint, and there's even one part where I remember that you're going through, and all of a sudden you have to like do a proper turn, otherwise you get destroyed because it's a straight drop down into a tunnel, and if you're too fast, you actually die. So
Wow.
Um, yeah, and if you blow up an engine, it actually spins you around for a little bit before you blow up. You actually have to if you hit the engines against stuff, they start to get damaged, and you gotta actually repair and slow down. Or if you boost too much, you actually set your engines on fire. And I mean that game you can go over like 1,000 kilometers an hour. Like
Okay, so from the sounds of it, the only thing I really know about it is that it's, a Star Wars racing game and that most people who hated the Phantom Menace still liked that game. But from the sounds of it, it really sounds like an F-Zero style racer,
the,
which I
the, yeah.
loved F-Zero GX as a kid on the GameCube. It was one of the coolest games I ever had as a kid, but I just wish that they'd make a new one. And if they make a new pod racing game, then
Well,
that
I
up
have
for it.
seen a video of somebody actually took the 3D engine and was remastering the game, and you can download it to play it. However, you can only play as Anakin, and it's only Boonta Eve, basically trial lap. So,
Okay.
but it's a start, and it real like watching the gameplay for it. It's like think of what if they actually took Battlefront engine and put it in this game. Like I think a remaster of that game would be phenomenal.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there's not really much else to say. It's just a racing game. You get to buy parts. You can buy pit droids. To I don't know why they are honestly useless because you don't actually see any of them. Um, you can go to Watto Shop and buy all these different parts, or you can go to the junkyard and get discounted stuff. And it rotates all the time. So it's kind of interesting because sometimes you can even get dialogue between your character and I think it's the track favorite. And they just have like a think of like Injustice or Mortal Kombat where they just have quick one-liners against each other. That's basically all it is.
Okay,
So
but just a second here. Did you seriously just talk crap about the pit droids?
no, not okay. Let me rephrase this. The pit droids in the game are useless because you buy them and that's it. You don't see them ever. The only time you see them is when they're working on your pod racer in between races. So it's not like you can just pull over to the side. Your pit droids is like, oh yeah, here let's repair this and work on this while the race is going on.
Okay,
That's what I mean. They're useless, and you only buy 3 of them, and they're
so they're
like,
cosmetic then, basically.
yeah, and they're literally like, I don't know, like 200 or 300 credits each. Like they're stupidly cheap, and they're just useless. You buy 3 and that's it. You can't even sell them. Like that's the only downfall is the fact that they're stupid. So
Okay, because the pit droids are in the top 5 for best droids ever in Star Wars. There's R2, BB-8, Kalani, the super tactical droid, who I'll mention later in a topic. There's the pit droids and the gonk droids. Those are the 5 best droids in Star Wars. So anytime someone talks crap about the pit droids, I get very angry.
is that your top 5 droids, or is that like, they did a survey kind of thing and those were the top 5?
I don't know. All I know is that my word is law, and those guys are objectively the top 5.
Okay. So don't make fun of the Last Jedi and don't make fun of pit droids. Got it.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't go that far.
Okay. Do you have a? I guess we'll move on to the next game that we kind of want to dive into a little bit.
Yeah, how about Empire at War, the Star Wars game that I've put easily the most amount of time into?
Now, are we
I
talking the original or the gold pack edition?
um Everybody agrees that Forces of Corruption is the definitive version, and anybody who plays base game does not know what they're talking about.
I will agree with you on that because once I like when I got the game first, because I actually bought it on CD and then I lost it and then it came on Steam, and so I rebought it on Steam, and I've always gone as the gold pack. And I gotta say that once I played through the gold pack edition, I literally didn't bother to go uh to the original. And
Exactly.
and the only time I do go to the original is just to do the storyline, like the solo player, and I always was Empire because let's face it, the rebels suck on that one. Like,
Yeah, that gives them the challenge, though. I played through the Rebel storyline. I think I started the Empire storyline for the base game, but I just quit. Um, Gold Pack, Forces of Corruption, the definitive what Empire at War is, and every mod. That's one of the things that makes Empire at War so amazing. Is A, it's an incredible strategy game, and B, even now there are still brand new mods being made for it, like 15 years after the game comes out.
oh
There's
yeah,
like, yeah, there are countless YouTubers like Eckhart's Ladder or XP Gamers who actually like play them regularly, like brand new mods and everything. There's Thrawn's Revenge, there's Fall of the Republic, there's Awakening of the Rebellion, which is amazing. There are tons and tons of mods out there currently being like updated and everything, and it's just such an amazing base game on its own, never mind everything added with mods. Even the storyline with the Zan consortium in Forces of Corruption, like that storyline was really cool.
Zon
Despite,
Consortium, but yeah,
yeah, that's what I said, isn't it?
you said Zan. It's
Ooh.
Zon. Let's get it correct here. We shall not. What is it? We should not mispronounce Zon's name. Tiber Zon.
I always say Zan, and then Zahn is Timothy Zahn, the author. That's my way of mentally distinguishing them. But okay.
True. Plus, we're Canadians.
But
um,
the storyline for that, I thought in terms of gameplay, the last mission was cool, but in terms of story, I didn't think it made sense. Where, oh hey, we boarded the Eclipse and took it over, like that. That's dumb. But in terms of gameplay, it was a really cool final mission.
yeah.
Everything else about the story I thought was awesome.
Well, and the fact is, like the end storyline, like you had the Night Sister. Now, obviously, that's been retracted due to the Clone Wars eradicating the Night Sister clan. But you had the Night Sister who got captured, and that one is one of my favorite missions because of all the different units you can literally do and how little Tiber really cares about the important peoples. Because even some of the dialogue where it's like, oh, well, we had to face an AT-AT, it's like, not to worry, send in the recruits. Like, he's just, send them in, we'll pick up the mess. And literally, you can board Rancors, and the Rancors just tear AT-ATs apart. So
Right. Ron's ability was bribing, and that one, the way I got through it was I just bribed pretty much every single unit in the map. So I had a swarm of like juggernauts and ATSTs and swarms of stormtroopers and stuff by the end. It was pretty sweet.
oh yeah, and their cloaking abilities that they could do. Literally the fact that Uriah Fenn is the best sidekick ever. His blades are insane, and I really wish they would actually make him canon because
See, I forgot his name for a second. I was gonna say Uvank, but I think that's a Mass Effect name. But I was thinking the same guy.
yeah, and Uriah Fenn, he actually has the ability to heal himself, which I thought was really cool. And you really learn about him as a person uh, through the dialogue. Like, yeah, some of the dialogue is unskippable, but most of the dialogue, if you really listen to, like, on that mission, it's like, oh, the Force is strong in this area. It's like, wait, did you become a Jedi when when I was in prison? It's like, well, my people are familiar with the Force. We just don't use it. And it really makes you like, what is he about? Like, I want to get to know him more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's a pretty sweet character, and I think he's immortal, and that's all his healing and stuff like that, which is a pretty cool species. But he's
Yeah.
pretty Urge in that respect, where I guess the only way to kill him is to slam him into a star. But the one little detail that I found while playing through the museum or whatever it was on Coruscant was
Mm-hmm.
there's little exhibit of like Ewoks and stuff like that, like all these exhibits of different planets. The little Ewok figures are T-posing on the tables, and I thought that was hilarious when I first saw.
I have to go back and look at that one. So,
Yeah,
um, yeah, no, exactly. Like that game in terms of strategy wise, like you can, because even in the space battles, um, like I've played online of the space battles, and it's very entertaining because you gotta destroy the other person's whatchamacallit,
yeah,
spaceship. But you get gold, and then you have to fly ships to gain mining facilities to get more incoming gold, and you use that gold to upgrade your space station and like upgrade to tier 3, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then of course the bigger the tier, the more reinforcements you can get, yada yada yada. And literally I've done matches where and not online but in solo, where they destroyed everything. All I had was my space station, still won in the end because of the constant reinforcements that it was sending. So,
yeah. I think the skirmish battles are pretty standard RTS. Like the only other strategy game I've played as much as Empire Wars, like the Halo Wars games. It's the same style of strategy game for the skirmish matches.
mm-hmm.
Where Empire War really shines is Galactic Conquest. That is amazing. I love strategy games that are like grand scale like that. Like Mountain Blade, I guess would count. Like I've seen a bit of Stellaris. Empire at War is just the one that I've had access to that I love the most because it's got space and ground battles. And a lot of people don't seem to like the ground battles, but I think they're just as fun as the space battles. Sure, the space battles are objectively better, but I still like running around on the ground with squads of commandos and landing behind enemy lines, blowing things up so that they don't have their hypervelocity cannoning. And then my fleet can come in and mop it up. It's so much fun, but the mods make the game so much better. Awakening of the Rebellion, I think, is the best Empire War mod out there right now. You basically are the one who's responsible for building the rebellion. You've got to fight back the Empire and the Black Sun. and each faction actually works how they would in universe, where the rebellion starts out scattered across the galaxy and on the back foot with just random ragtag fleets. The only capital ships you have are like two or three that won't respawn once they get destroyed. There's Rebel One, which is really cool from one of the comics. It's a modified Providence class with the engines of a Recusant destroyer, and I think there were a few other parts from the Munificence that are put on to Rebel One. But for the most part, it's a Providence, and then there's the Liberation, which is an upgraded Venator voiced by Captain Shack from XP Gamers, and that's supposed to be like the capital ship of Rom Koda's militia. He starts out on Camino, and you basically have to link the entire galaxy together in the Outer Rim. You have to basically build a highway from Hoth to Mon Calamari to get Mon Mothma over there, and that's when you can really start pumping out the Mon Cal capital ships and start fighting back in full force against the Empire. I always like to lean heavily on the saboteurs and the commandos. I took Mandalore like within the first like in-game month. That and you get Concord Dawn at the start. It was just constant like spewing out hordes of Mandalorian Fang fighters, which are in the Rebels show. The Protectors like Fen Rao, they get those, and you can even see one in the Rise of Skywalker. That is the best ship in the game as far as I'm concerned, because I sent like three squads of Fangs against a Munificent, and they tore it apart and sent the entire fleet into retreat. Just those three squads. So the rebellion, they really have the disadvantage, but once you get going, you really can fight back, and it is a level playing field. And that's what I really like about the strategy games. Is sure, you get sick of being the underdog in stories and stuff, but when it comes to a strategy game, it is a level playing field for the most part. And that's one thing that I really like about Empire at War.
Yeah, and that's the thing with the two mods that I have done are the Mandalorian Wars, where you basically had all different Mandalorians, and they even brought back the vehicles that basically Revan declared illegal now. Can't remember what the names are, but yeah, they're like insanely powerful. And the other one was the Clone Wars mod, where your clones versus where the clones versus droids. And but the cool thing about it is each platoon had its own individual. So if you only wanted to send like two units out or two like clones out, you could. And I thought that
Yeah,
was really cool. However, as a warning to anybody who's interested in getting that, you need a beefy computer because the droids, like in the Clone Wars, overwhelm. And if you get a lot, it lags. Like I had a decent computer and it lagged. Now I have a better computer, so I'm pretty sure I should be fine. But
yeah. Clone
but
Wars mod is one that's amazing.
yeah, and the fact is, like, you had all the different Jedi's, even Galactic Conquests, where you could actually do the Clone Wars. So of course, the planets you start off with are the planets that are in Clone Wars, and you have to like capture different stuff. Like, so if you have obviously Kamino's your home base, and like they're all the different benefits for owning a planet. So
Yeah, I think the only one that's really comparable in size to Awakening of the Rebellion is Thrawn's Revenge. And the guys who made Thrawn's Revenge, that's the like post Endor Legends timeline of like dealing with the Imperial remnants and stuff like that. But that group of modders, they just released a Clone Wars version called Fall of the Republic, which is really good. And those, like Thrawn's Revenge, I think the main campaign has 200 planets or something like that. It's
holy
huge.
crap!
Yeah, and Awakening of the Rebellion has just about the same number, like 100, like high 100, like 200, something like that. There are a lot of planets to deal with. It's not just, oh, hey, here's Tatooine it can go directly to Naboo. Like, no, there are like 4 or 5 planets in between there. It's pretty crazy how big the galaxies can get in these mods, and that's where I have my big memory of where certain planets are located is through Empire at War and just remembering the strategies.
It's amazing, like the modding community that happens in these types of games. Like even like, and I'm gonna use the example of Skyrim, for example. Oh, excuse me. The fact is, like, even today, like Skyrim, even though it came out in 2011, is still being heavily modded. And I happened to watch a video of these different mods, and one of them is you could literally build your entire city. Um, and it's crazy. Like, it's not just here's a small building. It's like you can build a fortress with and have up to 6 children, because the game normally gives you two, and like stuff like that. Like people have made mods and they've even done like whole quest lines with dialogue and the whole 9 yards. Like like the games that are able to, like modders, I give you props for it. Like congratulations if you are a modder. Definitely give this a thumbs up. We're shouting you out because like I give props to any modder who does a fantastic job and people enjoy it. And it's the fact is you guys aren't getting paid for this. Like people just freely download it. So like again, good job. That's my shout out for the day for the podcast.
Yeah, the Empire at War modding community is like you said with Skyrim, it can really rival like the big Bethesda games like Fallout, Skyrim, and stuff, or even Battlefront 2. When 2017 was coming out, people were still modding Battlefront 2005 to have like Theed with the MTT assault, like going down the middle of the city. Like they were modding things in the new game into the old ones. Like Star Wars modders are really awesome what they can pull off with these games, even like 15 years after the games come out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I guess next game we can talk about is, and speaking of like an older game, I was what is it? I have my Steam up because I have all the different games. Where is it? Yeah, you know the Force Unleashed games. That's one we could talk about a bit later because the one I really wanted. Oh, here we go. I just wanted to make sure I got the name right, and it's the Star Wars Galactic Battleground Saga. It's an older game. For those of you who don't know what it is, it's picture Empire at War, with Star Wars style. You have to gather resources like wood and gold and ore and stuff to make your stuff. Picture that, but like in Star Wars, where the terminology is different. It's a fun little game. They had storylines that you could walk through. So like even with the Naboo one, where you had to inform Boss NASA on different things. You even had Chewbacca's dad was in it for a little bit, or like he was a chief. Just all this cool stuff. Great little storyline. Um, but once you got endgame stuff like making gunships, like it's basically like you've won. Get 10 gunships because they shoot at a high range, and any turrets, air or land, just got demolished by it. Because you can just ever creep them ever so forward and just out of range of the turrets.
Yeah, you mean like an Age of Empires style strategy, right?
Yes. So you
Right.
you have like your different tiers. You the one thing like to get food for this, you had to go hunting, or you had to do crops. And in order for you to do crops, you actually have to plant stuff, and because normally you have like a main center, where where all the villagers bring stuff over. But
See,
if you place stuff that are closer, they'll go there first. But
I
a
don't know.
lot of times, like when it
Very
comes to, huh?
that doesn't sound very droid army planting crops and hunting.
Well, yeah. I mean the droids not overly much, but like if you're playing like Wookiees and stuff, you get Wookiee villagers and stuff. Um, but yeah, it's all right, but with villagers, once they like drown out some of the logs and stuff, you literally at one point I was like building like four or five as a like a trail because I just kept getting further and further away. Um, and yeah, you can get speeders, you can get ships that go on land, and all this stuff. It's really interesting and fun. And it kind of does the storyline of the prequels as well as the originals and stuff like that. So a lot of fun. Um, but again, it's not really much to explain. Just I would like again, it's another RTS game that I think they should almost remaster a little bit. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's one that I definitely check out because I'm obviously a sucker for strategy games. So
yeah, and if you have played Age of Empires, I think you would like this game. And I mean, it's just wait until May 4th when it goes like 90% on sale.
yeah,
And I guess the next game, again, speaking of Steam, we can talk about is the Force Unleashed ones, like Force Unleashed, the Ultimate Sith Edition, and the Force Unleashed 2, which I think that's besides Jedi Fallen Order, which I know we'll talk about that. So I guess we'll kind of segue into that because I haven't played Fallen Order, but I do know what the game is all about. So I guess we probably should have put a spoiler warning if we talk about storylines and stuff like that.
well,
So,
Fallen Order's the only one when we get to it, but I
yeah,
mean, it's just,
but even the storyline for the Force Unleashed, I loved it, and the fact that in the first one, my favorite part is literally the very first level where you play as Darth Vader. Um, and this is right before the end when you're having to cross a bridge. All of a sudden, a Tie Fighter takes it out, so you got to go around. I've literally sat there for an hour and a half, almost 2 hours, because Wookiees just kept coming. Literally just grabbing them, throwing them away down the bridge, and tripping all the other Wookiees, and then they all like fling around and fly off the edge. Or I've forced one, or like one jumped at me, and I literally threw my lightsaber at them, and they just started
wait,
flying
wait,
away.
wait. Maybe that's why the Empire wanted to enslave the Wookiees. Infinite spawns.
Right? Like that's literally what it was like. And once you got to that third, like, because it was, you go to a bridge and then you have to go cross another bridge, another, and then turn right, cross another bridge, turn right, cross another bridge. Once you got to that third bridge, that's when they stopped spawning. But if you stayed in the middle bridge, and see, that was the thing, like, because you're Darth Vader, you're so OP. Once you killed somebody, or once you killed a Wookiee, they basically would give you health. So even if you sat there, because I've force grabbed somebody, threw my lightsaber and stabbed them, then tossed them away. Meanwhile, there goes my lightsaber, and I sit there for about maybe 10 to 15 seconds waiting as my lightsaber is just in the void as it comes back. And it's even funny when the lightsaber comes back and a Wookiee's like in the middle air and hits and you hit them. But I can sit there and just like take some damage, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, by the way, kill. It's like, oh, there we go, full health again. Like,
Yeah, I did play through both Force Unleashed games. The first game I played on the DS, the second one I played on the Wii, and then I played them both again on the Xbox because they came through on Games for Gold a few years ago. But
mhm.
really, the most fun one for me, despite it being, considered worse, I think Force Unleashed 2 on the Wii was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah,
It was
well, double lightsaber, the custom, and that was the whole thing is the custom costumes that you could do. Obviously, for the cutscenes, they went back to whatever the cutscenes are supposed to be. But I mean, like you could literally play as like a stormtrooper or other costume or like other characters and stuff. Uh, the ability to unlock the lightsaber colors and the crystals to make stuff, uh, and on all the different hidden stuff. Um, and I mean, this game, like the Force Unleashed, the first one, kind of confirmed what happened to Satele Shan. Um, Technically, by her death, as you killed her, but um, and then of course, the deleted scene for Revenge of the Sith came out, and that's how you killed her. Which I'm glad it was a deleted scene because that kind of
Oh,
does not
oh,
make sense.
you mean Shock T?
Shock T.
Okay, I thought when you said Satele Shan, I'm like, oh,
Oh,
how does Republic tie into this? But
oh
okay,
yeah. No, I was wondering why did I say that name? Like, yeah. So Satele is the Old Republic, which we'll talk about that later.
yeah. But the Force Unleashed I thought was really cool. I think Galen Merrick as a character has a lot of potential to come back. Even like sure it might not fit perfectly anymore with new canon, but I think if Rebels would have been like, oh hey, Ezra's like on the run from a few Inquisitors, and then he turns the corner, and there's literally Sam Witwer as an animated character dressed as an Inquisitor, and his theme starts playing, and then that's like where the scene ends, and then like he helps him escape or something like that. Like I think it would have been really cool if Galen Merrick would have still been a character who if he was an Inquisitor, it still would have fit his backstory. Like, yeah, he was trained by Vader in the ways of the dark side, and he defected to help build the rebellion. Even if he would have died, like, a couple episodes later, like, went off on his own,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't really matter. I think just having him in canon would have been really
Yeah, and
cool.
yeah, and of course Sam Witwer was the voice of Galen Merrick, which a little interesting tidbit. Did you know that when the Force Unleashed 2 came out, where of course Galen Merrick uses dual lightsaber or dual wields, it was the exact same time Ahsoka dual wielded. She didn't
Was
start
it?
yeah, she didn't start dual wielding until after the game came out.
Wow, because I knew she started in season 3. I just don't remember that happening at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought of Force Unleashed happening before the Clone Wars stuff happened, which I guess the first one was 2007, and then the second one was like 2010 or something like that. So
Well,
I guess it makes sense.
I'm
I
I'm
just
I'm gonna search it up now. Force
yeah,
Unleashed 2. Um, yep, 2010. You're right.
that was just a guess.
And the first one came out 2008.
Oh well, that one I was a year off. So same year as the Clone Wars started then for that one I think.
Yeah.
But I mean around the same time, but that's cool. I always thought that Galen Merrick was a cool character, and he was even in Lego Star Wars: The Clone Wars, the game for that. You could get him as an unlockable character as well as battle damaged Vader. So he was still a part of the Star Wars like mindset at that time. But it's kind of sad that he's been forgotten. Sure, he was overpowered and pretty annoying sometimes, I think at least, but he is still an interesting like concept as a character.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah, we try to keep these podcasts under 2 hours, and I mean, yeah, we got two parts to it, so we probably should wrap it up and start talking about another couple of games before we get into our second part. I guess we can go in from Force Unleashed to the other Jedi game, which is Fallen Order. So,
uh,
you you have experience with it. You have played it. I have not yet, but I have seen gameplay, so I do know the whole story of like tidbits and stuff, or the main stuff that has come out. Obviously, the very ending, I do know what happens. So this is a spoiler warning for those who haven't played the game, I guess, because this is the major one. But I guess since you got the experience of it, did you want to talk about it?
Oh yeah, and I mean the first thing I'm gonna mention is that there's in the song or in the game there's a song that Cal listens to at the start of the game, and you hear it again later on when you're fighting in this like a criminal arena. Is a band that I have been listening to for a year or two now called The Who. It's a Mongolian band, and they're actually in the game. One of their songs is in there, and it's really cool. But there are so many things that Fallen Order has done really well. I mean, the only game that EA has put out that can really contest it is Battlefront 2, and even then, there's no competition. Fallen Order is easily the best Star Wars game we've had in years. Like Cal Kestis, I think he looks kind of weird, but I mean, I just don't really like how the actor looks. Nothing against him, but I'm not a huge fan of how he looks. But Cal is a really cool character. BD1 is an amazing droid. Seer and Grease are amazing. I love how Grease is always like grab some seat and stuff like that. It's really funny. Um, the planets you can go to are so cool, like Bogano, Zepho, I think that's the name of it. You even go to Ilum near the end of the game.
Yeah, and they confirmed that Ilum was Starkiller Base through that, didn't they?
Pretty much, yeah. You fly in, and there's the giant trench being mined out by the Empire.
So no, when I saw that, I thought, oh, that's kind of a cool nod to a fan theory that people thought that Starkiller Base was Ilum, just the way it was designed and how when they had Starkiller Base fire their cannon, and the way that like the way that Han and Finn and Ray were where they were and where it hit, it just it makes sense that it was from Ilum. And now that the game confirms it, I thought that was kind of like a cool little tie. Like, hey, we heard you. It's plausible. Here we go. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, it's been all but outright stated at this point. It's safe to assume, but it's not completely like concretely confirmed. But there's so much that Fallen Order has done really well. It just I one thing that I irrationally hate about the game is seeing all of the broken down Venators, Arc 170s, like all of the destroyed Clone Wars ships. It just hurts. But that's nothing against the game. It's just something that really, for some dumb reason, upsets me. But the Order 66 flashback was amazing. My favorite part of the game is when Cal walks up to that one clone and gives him a little high five or a fist bump. I can't remember, but it's amazing, so cute. Um, the Lasat Jedi, can't remember his name off the top of my head, but it's cool that we have another Lasat who is actually a part of the Jedi Order, and
Oh
wears pretty
yeah.
bit as Anakin does in the Clone Wars. The clone airborne design has come back and is used as for the Purge troopers, which are insanely cool. They use the Magna Guard pikes and the DC-15s, and they're used for hunting Jedi, which we've seen in Vader comics, but now we actually have in a game. I even have a pop figure on my shelf. Um, the She's the ninth sister, I think, is the big alien one who we saw in the, and then this one here is the second sister, Trilla. She's awesome. um, who else is there? Oh yeah, the last night sister, Marin, is really cool. Um, what was his name? The fallen Jedi on Dathomir. He's really cool. All of his like scars and everything. Like at the moment you meet him, you know he's a bad guy, and then the game tries to be like, oh, he's a bad guy, but anyone with half brain is like, yeah, we called that like 35 in-game hours ago. You're not slick. Um,
So it's a
there,
very long game.
it's not a very long game, but it is, it's an enjoyable length.
Yeah.
Um,
So like to me, I think 6 hour game time. Like if you can do a whole storyline in one sitting, then it's too short. Like you have to
Oh,
actually spend
it's
2 or 3 days.
it's about a weekend to knock it out, I'd say.
Okay.
It's a decent length. There are a couple things that I don't like about the game overall. Um, some of them are just nitpicks, but others are like fundamental. Like I didn't really enjoy them. You don't get to actually fully customize your own blade until the end of the story, just about. You go to Ilum, and that's like third from the end of things you have to do in the storyline,
Okay.
and build your own lightsaber. If in the story, the saber you've had the entire time is your old master's, but it gives you all these customization options, and then all of a sudden it's broken, and you have to build your own. And everybody's just like, "Well, I liked how it looked before, and it's exactly the same, but this time you get to choose a new crystal color." I think if there was like a new game plus or something like that, where you save all of your like uh your all your loot and stuff like that into your next playthrough, so that you can have your options. Like I have a red uh like saber with a yellow blade, and I love it, but I didn't get to have that as it is until Ilum. If you could do like a new game plus where you have poncho that you like most, and your BD1 skin that's your favorite, and all of that from the beginning, I think that would be pretty cool. That's not a fundamental, you know,
Mm-hmm.
dis. Just it would have been nice. Cal doesn't get much customization options. There are 5 different like jumpsuit colors, and then there are like a million different ponchos, and most of them look bad. There's a really bright pink one. There's one that's called Free Kashyyyk, which has this cool like design on the back. There's one that's pretty much the same color as the Endor Rebel poncho that Luke has in Return of the Jedi. Um, BD1, his skins are really reminiscent of certain characters throughout Star Wars. There's a black and red design that's similar to the jacket that Poe gives to Finn. There's one called Blue Leader, which looks almost exactly like Tali Lintra's A-Wing. There's one that's like light blue and orange, looks exactly like Tora Doza's fighter from Resistance. Um, there are a few others that I just can't remember off the top of my head, but the Mantis skins really show different ships, like reminiscent of them. Like there's a bounty hunter skin that's like the Slave One. One of the pre-order bonuses you get is the Vanguard skin, which is BT7274 from Titan, because it's made by Respawn, the same guys who do Titanfall. So there's a reference to that in the game. Um, the customization, what we have, is pretty cool. I think they did almost perfectly how sabers should be customized, but the pure cosmetics, I'm a real sucker for cosmetics, and I was pretty disappointed. But what little we do have is pretty cool. Um, I don't like how on, I think the planet was Zepho. It's sort of like a mountainy planet. The Mantis lands, and in the background there are like TIE fighters in the ambience that are flying by and stuff like that. Realistically, one of those TIE fighters sees the Mantis, and they have to leave the planet like forever. Whereas if the Empire's on the planet and they know you're there, that's not treated as much of a threat as it should be. In Rebels, it's like, oh no, the Empire knows we're here. We have to get out of here now. But in Fallen Order, it's like, hey, the Empire like knows we're here. You want to maybe consider wrapping things up within the next like few hours and coming back to the ship. And even then, you can just take your time and just mosey on back. And then on Ilum, there are 2 ATSTs that are like right at the Mantis, and instead of shooting at it and blowing it up, they just wait around for Cal to get. Just sure, in terms of gameplay, it's fair, but in terms of like story and concept, it's a little nitpick from me.
But
Um,
you've always been the nitpicky person.
when it comes to stuff like, it's just inconsistency with how threatening the Empire is. So,
Yeah,
um,
well, Now, just out of the reports and what was told is the lightsaber, does it change as the game progresses? Because I believe that's what it was told was going to happen. And
Um,
like I
it,
know that it's treated as a single, but I have seen gameplay where people use it as double bladed. When does that happen?
you can go to Dathomir from just about the start of the game. It's not recommended because it's a really high level area, but you can go there. There's a workbench you can find where Cal just, pulls out his saber, blow torches it a little bit, and then boom, he's got double bladed for it's
Okay.
optional as a double blade, and that's in terms of gameplay. It's used more for reflecting bolts back and for crowd control, whereas the single is just for like single person attacks. Um, and then at the end, when you're on Ilum and making your new lightsaber, you get a split design, kind of like how Ahsoka has like one main and then like a smaller one,
Okay.
but they're attached together and you can break them apart to do this one like separate saber attack. It's just the one attack, which is pretty annoying, but it's still a cool concept. So as you're going through the game, you can customize anything that you have into it. You only get the blue and the green saber crystals from the start. Once you get to Ilum, you get all the other colors pretty much, except red, I think. But you can customize anything you have at any, and it's just those couple parts in the game are when the saber, in terms of gameplay, changes. So other than
Okay.
that, the story you get more abilities like double jump and wall running and all that kind of stuff. Which finally Star Wars has wall running, which is amazing, and obviously Respawn is the one to implement it. But I wall running Jedi since I was in like fifth grade, so it's pretty sweet that we have it now.
Yeah, I think for in terms of talking about the games that have already been released, I think we ran out of time. I know there was a couple of others we wanted to start on. Um, when I guess we'll get back to that if we have some time. I guess we'll get on to part two, where it's different games we would like to see. So the different styles of future Star Wars games. If you made it this far, congrats. And yeah, I guess this is comment contributed, where put down in the comments of what style of game you would like or what era of games you would like to see. I know that again, Tristan, you made a list because you always come prepared, and I never do.
I
So,
tried.
and I have the list of yours as well in front of me. So, you had said about Mass Effect styles for all the different eras.
Yeah, so what I mean by that is I want it to be like its own little sub series of games where it's like the first one, like it's meant to be like you're a commando team and you're a different team every time through the eras, but it's still the similar style where you're a group of commandos fighting through, like, say your Republic commandos fighting the droids in one game, and then you're like rebels fighting the Empire and Resistance fighting the First Order in the others. Like I think it would be a cool like little sub series unofficially pulled together because they're similar through gameplay, but they're different enough and completely separate cast each time, or there could even be like separate characters carrying over. But I do really like the Mass Effect like gameplay style, and the only other game I've ever played that makes use of that style is an XCOM spin-off, which everybody hates because it's literally just Mass Effect with like Cold War guys. But I think it's a really cool style of game, and I think Star Wars could really do a lot of things with it.
Well, and the
Um,
fact that Mass Effect is done by BioWare, which BioWare is known for that style of stuff, because I mean, we already have Dragon Age Inquisitor, as well as we even have Star Wars: The Old Republic, um,
yeah,
which took stuff off from Knights of the Old Republic and Knights of the Old Republic 2. So that style, and I do agree what you're saying in the terms of the Mass Effect, because I do know that the Mass Effect games is a continuation, so whatever you did in the first one will affect your games in the second and third proceeding, and I think that would be a cool concept to do, in the
yeah,
sense of like if you play as a character and then you continue the second game, the faction that you decide like the Tusken Raiders, you decide to destroy their village. You come back to it later in the second game, and they, oh well, you're not a welcome here because we know what you did.
Yeah, there is a lot of potential for really cool like major story decisions, even if it's like completely separate between the games. I think just in terms of core like third person cover based squad based shooter, I think that there could be something really cool there. Or if they want to do an overarching story with the same characters, like the Mass Effect trilogy, they could do that. The point is that as an idea, Mass Effect is an amazing source of inspiration for what Star Wars games could do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a real stupid decision that BioWare hasn't done it yet because they're owned by EA. Like they really gotta do one that's just it's a like instead of making a Star Wars game, they went and made Anthem and Andromeda, and look what happened there.
Yeah, and we've got like another thing on your list of new RTS games because obviously we have the Galactic Battlegrounds, we got Empire at War, and I think those are the only two real RTS games. So you know,
Yeah, I think even if we get like an Empire at War remake, like there's a mod out there that's an unofficial remake, but I mean, if we had an official remake of the game, that would be cool. But I would like a brand new style of strategy game, and I already, think a great idea for it would be remember Kalani from Rebels, the super tactical droid?
oh
He's
yeah,
known at the end of that episode. I think that is the perfect opportunity for a new strategy game where Kalani like ends up on this random planet with a small squad of droids, and he's got to rebuild a droid army to help fight the Empire. Like, say he hears about the Battle of Endor, or Battle of Hoth, or something like that. He's like, they're doing a lot better than I expected. Maybe I should help out with my tactical expertise. And he starts making a new droid army. I think that would be the perfect premise for a new strategy game is having Kalani at least play some role, whether as like an advisor to the character or you are the tactician Kalani playing and commanding. I think it would be really cool.
oh
Um,
yeah,
yeah, there's just so many different styles of strategy games out there. There's like the Halo Wars style where it's just, oh yeah, you drop down your base, build a couple buildings and send your armies out, or like Empire at War, Stellaris, stuff like that where it's like grand scale. There are so many different styles of games that they could do with the RTS banner genre that, the possibilities are endless and it's another opportunity, and that's why so many people have such little faith in the EA that finally, like what 5 years after they got it, they finally bring out Fallen Order, which is the first definitive amazing game that they've done. Battlefront 2 2017 is debatable depending on who you ask, but Fallen Order is the first like near universally accepted amazing game that they've put out in years. So
mm-hmm.
um you have any that you are
Well,
think
the only one like because obviously like you got your FPS games, which of course we do have quite a few of those. Like even the game Republic Commando, which I have played a little bit of that one, and that was kind of interesting because you lead a squadron and you really gotta uh, do the style of like you gotta work as a team. I think it would be cool if they remade that, but in the sense of, did you ever play the game Army of Two or heard about it?
I've heard of it.
So, just as a quick premise, you're two players. That is a complete co-op game. You have to work together, and so like if one person decides, "Oh, I'm gonna take all the aggro," and just randomly blindly fire, the other person can sneak around while the enemy is being distracted. I think if they remade that style of Republic Commando with online multiplayer co-op, where you play as the four different characters and you have to work together as a team. I think that would be really interesting. Like bring back a co-op one. That would
Yeah,
be my best guess. Like either a remake or something completely different where it's a complete co-op. Because I think with co-op games you really have to trust the person you're playing with, because you can do it with just computer and AI, but it's not as effective as an actual player. And I know I've played Army of Two with my brother, and sometimes me and my brother don't get along, and it ended up like it literally came down to, well, you didn't do this right. Well, you should have done this, and you end up arguing more than actually, playing. So
See, in my notes, I've got written down FPS Clone Wars RC style, like Republic Commando, because I think Delta Squad is still canon thanks to that one cameo in the Clone Wars. We could have a new Republic Commando game with Delta Squad again,
no,
or
no, no, no. Instead of Delta Squad, Bad Batch.
I was literally just about to say that.
So,
Yeah, you could either do Bad Batch, Republic Commando, like Delta Squad, or you could have both. I think that would be cool. You could like
oh.
choose one at the beginning of the game.
Well,
Another.
and see that's the thing with obviously this is coming out after the release of Clone Wars, and if you guys haven't watched the first episode, definitely worth it. But they mention like a couple of other missions, and I know that Alex from Star Wars Explained mentions that this is coming to the end of the war. Why are we just hearing about this for the first time? Because even Rex is like 99. Nice little touch. Like, so how
Yeah,
long has these guys been around? Maybe we could have a game of, the Republic Commando style of co-op in the Bad Batch form of them doing those missions. And of course, because it's released after Disney, it would be considered canon.
exactly.
So,
Um, a few others that I've got are Arma style MilSim, which is military simulation, because Arma 3 has a modded server for the 501st Legion, and I think that's, if I'm remembering right, it's one of the biggest Arma servers out there. So there is a big audience for this kind of thing, and it is very popular. Like every time the guy Sorensic streams it on Twitch, he's like top one or two in Arma's category. It is a very popular style of game, especially in like the Clone Wars setting. So I think that would be really cool. There's infinite possibilities for that. I've also got more Jedi games like say Fallen Order or
mm-hmm. Well, aren't they
Force
making a
Unleashed.
sequel for?
But one that I think would be really cool is because I mean I'm a sucker for strategy games, so a Fire Emblem style game would be cool. And I mean that not only as a turn-based strategy, but as like say XCOM, even like just a turn-based thing in general would be cool. But
Yeah.
as like you get attached to the characters, like you can choose what style of unit they are. Maybe not Jedi, say for like a few predetermined ones, but say, oh, I'm like a heavy gunner, sniper. You can choose the specific classes for these characters, and there's like certain conversations and things like that they have where like they are characters that are just in like say the one game and maybe a few like side materials, but you do get attached to them like very quickly, and like the relationships between them like really matter because like the most recent Fire Emblem game is Three Houses. It just came out in July, and it like perfectly encapsulated what the series is capable of. And I think a Star Wars game about that, like say your Rebels or Resistance, like it's the perfect opportunity and era for that style of game.
Yeah, and like going back to like the more Jedi games like Fallen Order, like is it confirmed that there is going to be a sequel to the
Last
Jedi?
year, um, I don't know if it's like official, but I did hear that it was confirmed that there would be another Fallen Order game. But the thing is about that, I don't want a new Fallen Order game until we get Titanfall 3.
Well, and see that's the thing. Like, where do you continue the story? Because like I do know how the ending goes, where they got a holocron. I don't know how they got it, but they got one, and then of course they destroyed it. Like, where do you continue from there?
Yeah,
So,
I think it could be like because he knows Saw Gerrera. Maybe he works with him for a little while, or maybe he meets Enfys
oh
Nest
yeah,
because
I forgot Saw was in that. How much is he actually in it? Like just a level?
He's in it for a little bit. Like I'd say a couple hours, and then because he and his partisans are attacking Kashyyyk to try and free them, and they do meet some success thanks to Cal's help. But when you come back, turns out they got hit hard, and so Saw and most of his people left Kashyyyk because it was a lost cause. But some of his partisans stayed behind to help the Wookiees, and they sort of help you out a little bit for the rest of the time that you're on Kashyyyk.
Yeah, so kind of like a another Jedi game where you're on Kashyyyk rescuing Force Unleashed.
Yeah, pretty much.
um, yeah, and yeah, so like again, games like those would be really nice. And I think the one is we need a really good MMO. Not that the Star Wars: The Old Republic is not a bad MMO, which again I have played to the max level, and have played. I mean, I haven't played in a while, because I know they came out with another new expansion, or not an expansion, but a new update where it has a whole bunch of new stuff. But was but the fact of like an MMO thinking like an can't speak right now. A MMO RPG style game. Think of like Skyrim meets No Man's Sky together. Like you got the world of Skyrim where when you're on the ground, it's this whole planet you're immersed, and then of course when you're in the air like No Man's Sky, you're flying around having to transport to these locations, and then also the fact of it being an MMO, so you could actually fight other people like a whole PvP. I think that would be like obviously like 10 years from now, but I think that would be a top game because not only would you be able to like the because I'm thinking fully customization, like you can be any customization, like heck, if you want to be a Weequay pirate, go for it. Like, start just going on all Hondo and stuff. You know, you
See, that's a lot like Star Citizen, I think it's called.
okay. I don't think I've
Yeah,
heard of that game.
it's a super crowd-funded game, and apparently it's not going to be done for a few years now. But it's really sounding like it's going to be that kind of a game where it's just huge. Or Star Wars Galaxies, I think, ended up being similar to that back
Yeah.
when it. I also have written down as a new MM Galactic Civil War or First Order Resistance era because I don't remember the official name of that era. Um, but I think it would because I did enjoy what I played of the Old Republic. I'm not much interested in that era, to be honest. So it never really pulled me in. I played as the Republic trooper and I had a bounty hunter character, but I think in total I put in like 20 something hours in the game and I just didn't really pick it up after that. I think part of that is because the era and stuff like that. If there was an MMO where it's like, yeah, we fight the Empire, like Leia's like giving you an inspirational speech before, you get sent on this super classified mission. Like I think it really depends on the era and the characters and things like that. I just the old Republic era never really interested me, so I think that's part of why I didn't like it much. In terms of core gameplay, it was okay. I haven't played enough MMOs to really gauge what I would have liked differently, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, and that's fine. Like, because a lot of people compare the Old Republic to WoW, and as a person who has played both and maxed out a character in both, when it comes to end game content, it's a lot more fun as Star Wars than it is for WoW. But that's just my personal preference, because to me, when it came to the real role playing of the game, and this is where I think like we need a really good role playing game, because Skyrim is a full good role playing. Like heck, if you just want to like, you can be a mage, you can be a warrior, you can be a thief, you can be assassin, you can be a whole bunch of other things, and that's where I think the customization of it is. If you wanted to be a pirate, go for it. Be a pirate, and that's I think would be really cool. And again, because normally a lot of times with the MMORPGs, I always just did the MMO part, but barely the RPG. And I finally decided to dive into some of the RPG and learn about it. And it's actually a lot of fun. Like, yeah, it's a lot of typing and you have to sit there and, like, you basically, like, I'm sorry, but if I'm paying $30 or $15 a month, this is not what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to actually be doing gameplay. But since the Old Republic's free, go on there, start role playing. I mean, the different outfits, and that's where I think the game could really immerse in is it, like in this game of My Ideal, is that you actually are playing the character and you really dive into the fact of being a pirate, being a stormtrooper, or not a stormtrooper, being a Jedi, being a Sith, being a bounty hunter. Like, go out and do stuff. Um, so
Uh, I've got one listed that's kind of similar to that, where it's like the Fallout style of like gameplay and like interaction with NPCs mixed with like the world of like Grand Theft Auto, for
oh
example,
yeah.
where you have like this like big planet you can fly around on, like say the size of San Andreas, I think it's called in GTA 5, like a big like say island sized,
Mm-hmm.
and you can there's the spaceport there. You can take your ship, fly it to like one end of the map or to the other, or you could just drive a speeder or like run if you wanted to. And there's different like towns, settlements, things like that, like an imperial base, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I think it can work with any era, but preferably not Clone Wars, because that would be pretty restricted with what you can do.
Well, yeah,
But
and that would be the thing about this game, like, because it would mix the No Man's Sky is that it would be not just one planet but the whole galaxy, and that's why I think it would take years to develop something like this, because a whole galaxy as one server, you would have millions of people on, and the thing is, it would be canon. So of course you make these maps, because I know with No Man's Sky you have to you get to name any undiscovered planets, whereas this is all names. So, of course, Exodal would be on there, Coruscant, Naboo, like all these different planets. Even Ilum would be on there because I think to really settle it in, I don't see it as an Old Republic era or even like the Clone Wars or Resistance era. I think it would be like maybe set 500 years before the movies.
oh,
That
like
that
it's
I, that I think it would be a good era because so obviously Sith would be out of the question because at that point, so maybe instead of Old Republic, maybe like 1500 years, so when Sith are still around, but you don't have Revan, you don't like you don't have any head characters, like you don't have Revan for the Old Republic, you don't have Yoda and Darth Bane, like it's just there is no new, like I think that would be a great game to immerse a fully immersed game and bring people from people who don't like Star Wars but really love MMO or an RPG, and you sit there and get a guild together and just you know sit around a campfire and have a good old time. you know
yeah.
so that would be my ultimate game, is that would be something.
See, because Grand Theft Auto, I think, in terms of its core gameplay and stuff like that, has a lot of things wrong with it. But in terms of like the world and like the vehicles and like all of those options, like even customization and stuff, I think having that in the Star Wars style would be incredible for a game. Even if it's like, oh, hey, yeah, you got like lobbies like 30 people on each, and you've just got that big map you can run around on. Even if it's one planet, if it's
Mm-hmm.
a big map, that is a lot of fun and a lot of things you can do. Even with like playing with friends and stuff like that, there's so many options. Like, sure, having a bunch of different planets is preferable, but I'm
Yeah.
not sure if it's realistic. But I mean,
Yeah,
uh,
again, it would be like the fact is that it'd be one server, a whole MMO, and you're literally having millions of players, and you might not even run into anybody. Like, so, but of course, you have all the NPCs that you go and do quests and things like that. Um, And that's why that's why I say that this would be my ideal game. However, it's unrealistic, and it will take years to actually develop something like that, because it would take years just to make it that immersed. Because even Skyrim, like the difference between, I'm just gonna double check because I know Skyrim came out in 2011, but like
Yeah,
Oblivion,
Oblivion
but
came out in 5.
hmm?
Oblivion came out in I think 2005.
Yeah, I'm just gonna double check. Scrolls 4 2006. So
Ah,
I mean a 5 year difference between 4 and 5, like, and I mean those are big games itself. Can you imagine something like making a whole galaxy? That would take years. So while this is my ultimate game, highly unrealistic, I do like your idea where everything I said, but put it on one planet, and or have only like 2 or 3 planets.
yeah,
So
and I think that what was it? It would still take a long time. But if it was something like, say, Fallout 76, what it should have been, or Elder Scrolls Online, or I mean, GTA is the one I've been comparing it to this whole time. If
yeah.
it's that style of a game, it could really like do well, but it would still have to be like single player possibility. It's just multiplayer is optional. It would
Mm-hmm.
have to be those styles of games because things like Grand Theft Auto, they have an amazing single player and you still have the whole world, but you can still have a multiplayer experience.
Mm-hmm. And like
It,
for GTA, I've played the whole storyline, the single player, multiple times, and I'm finding stuff that it's like, oh, I never saw this the first time. Like the random encounters that you get, it's completely random, and it all
yeah,
depends on who you are between the 3 characters of when the random encounter happens, on which on what happens, because I know there's one where if you can pick up a hitchhiker girl, and literally the dialogue changes between whichever character. Now, honestly, the best thing to do it is do it as Trevor, because he's psychotically insane, and so is this chick. So so it's a match made in heaven for those two.
yeah, I always thought Michael was the best three.
Michael was the more sensible one. What was the not
Frankly,
Trevor, Franklin? Yeah.
Trevor was just a little too much for me.
Well, especially like there was times where like literally when you switch to him, some of the outrageous stuff he did. Like I just remember him throwing up at one point over a bridge, and then like his response, like, "Oh, never eat Indian people." Like just like
Wow.
it made no sense. It's like what? Like you know he's insane, but that insane, or another one where you point to his car, or like when you transfer or change to him, he's sometimes driving and he actually is like taunting a guy on a moped, or he's getting chased by the police and makes it's like, I didn't do anything, I swear, but he's got like 6 cop cars after him. So
Wow. One other FPS game that I think would be cool was in Black Ops 2 Call of Duty, there's these side missions called the Strike Force missions,
mm-hmm.
where it is the FPS mechanics with a sort of pseudo strategy to it, where you're commanding like Marines or like drones, turrets, and stuff like that, and doing these different objectives. I think that would be really cool for a
Ooh,
clone,
yeah.
just Star Wars in general type of thing. Like I'm focusing a lot more on like the war style games because those are the ones I always have the most fun with.
Oh yeah.
But there's like endless possibilities. Like say you could make like an Animal Crossing Star Wars game. Like there's so, I mean, I'd play it.
I,
like
I mean, everybody has their own niche. Like mine is RPGs and RTSs and stuff like that. First person I like too. So
yeah,
open world. So
the Lego Skywalker saga that they'll really fix up and refine a lot of the ideas Lego's had over the years. I just the other day 100%ed Lego Force Awakens. It's probably the most like finished of the Lego games I've ever played. The like I've played just about every Lego Star Wars game, except for like the official like, hey, Lego just the prequels. That's like the only one I haven't. But I've played Lego Star Wars 3, the glitchiest games I've ever played. It had a lot of cool ideas, but man, it really needed like a few more months to finish up because my brothers and I would make a game out of it, see how fast we can freeze the game. Like you go, your hub world for Lego Star Wars 3 was the Resolute and the Invisible Hand, I think it was, like a Venator and a Providence, and you would go out to the ship and you could like you could go to the hangar in the Venator and you could pick a ship, fly out into space and go into the other one. But if you quit the game when you're in your ship in between and you restart it, you start as just the ship, and when you go to land again, as soon as the frame hits where your character's about to eject, the game realizes there's no one in there and it freezes.
Oh,
The only
bizarre.
that is to have another player connect and choose a mission from inside the ship, and then you can choose your character there, and that's how you get out of it. In the major battles, those were so much fun, but if you every now and then, if a vehicle's been going around for long, it stops, kicks the player out or the driver or whatever. It just stops, and it sets out this little radio signal, and a gunship comes down and picks it up and takes it away, and then it just respawns back at the base.
Hmm.
Um, if you can destroy the ship while the gunship is coming down, you can destroy the vehicle. As soon as when you do that, the frame where the ship goes to leave, it detects there's nothing there, and it freezes. What the last mission of the game, the epilogue, was the Zillo Beast. Phase one of the level was the big battle on Malastare, and then phase two was I think only for story actually, where you actually fight the Zillo Beast with the Falchion tanks. Which, side note, the Falchion tanks are amazing, and I hope they come back someday, just like the Sabers did. Um, we haven't even got an official Lego set of the Falchions. But you could get 11 mini kits in that one, and as soon as it goes to count the mini kits, it freezes. Like there are so many glitches in Lego Star Wars 3. Um, the complete saga on the DS was another super glitchy game. Um, complete saga in general for home console seemed fine, but I also played Lego Star Wars 2 on the GameCube. That one was okay. It's just complete saga on the DS and Lego Star Wars 3 glitchy like to the max. So I hope that the Skywalker saga really, like first of all, I'm excited to see the Last Jedi in a Lego game, but I would really like for them to take the core gameplay of the Force Awakens and bring it to the rest of the movies, and actually have it be at least semi bug free game. Because I've only encountered like maybe one or two glitches in the Force Awakens in my entire time 100%. So I think that's a pretty good track record, and I hope that the Skywalker saga actually does that. I think we're just a few months away from that game actually coming out, if I'm remembering right.
Oh man, that's because yeah, the only Lego Star Wars I've done was the original, and I think that's about it. Which I honestly think that the original, because I think it was the prequel ones I did. I think I remember one of them came out before Episode 3, and yeah, the Lego Star Wars the Lego Star Wars that came out before Episode 3 did, and it literally gave away the whole movie. It's like it was almost like the six missions that you had to do. Of course, yeah, it was when you just did like six missions. Of course, mission number one was the spaceship one where you're on basically a track, and it like and I say track by basically the camera just goes and you just kind of fly around and shoot things. So
Yeah, the space missions for a few of them have been like a rail shooter like Star Fox, but yeah,
yeah,
I know what you mean. That one was really cool. I the complete saga was great, and I think it really helped iron things out. I think it's funny how it literally just took the prequel games and the original trilogy game and put them together, and we're like,
hmm
hey, it's a brand new game. I think that's funny, but I think it's if the Skywalker saga is actually reworking those two trilogies into the Force Awakens style, I think that would be really cool because I think the Force Awakens style is really good. It's taken everything that's great about the Lego Star Wars games and actually like evolved a lot of them and brought in mechanics like the shooter sections are pretty fun. Um, I didn't think that there would be enough to actually make a full game out of just the Awakening, but they were pretty clever with what they included.
yeah,
So
and I did enjoy the Lego stuff because correct me if I'm wrong. I think the Lego Star Wars was the first of its kind for Lego video games. Um,
I'm
because I know they had like the Lego Movie, they Lego Batman came after, and Lego Harry Potter and stuff like that. Um,
I'm
so
pretty sure that the only other Lego games that were relatively successful at that time were the Harry Potter ones, but those came like I think after the complete saga. So
yeah,
they actually had the Lego formula done. But the other Lego game that I played a lot of it, there's two of them was Lego Battles because duh strategy game. It was on the DS. It was really fun. And Lego Lord of the Rings, which it experimented with an open world and it
ooh,
was no open world, but it was a cool idea, poor execution, just like a lot of the Star Wars. So I'm I'm really hoping that the Skywalker saga, like it's obviously gonna have all 9 movies. I'm kind of half hoping for a bit of Clone Wars, a bit of like Rogue One in, but I doubt it. At the very least they'll be like, oh yeah, we've got DLC character packs just like the Force Awakens did, where it's like, yeah, free play you can run around as like Ezra and Ahsoka or
hmm
Sabine, like whatever his name Freemaker is, and
well, and
uh,
see that's the thing. Like speaking of Freemaker, I was just gonna mention that the one thing about Lego stuff is it's actually quite entertaining on how they break the fourth wall. Because even in the Lego remakes, because I have seen, I know these aren't canon, but like it's C-3PO and R2-D2 telling different stories on and different adventures, and of course they mention like Luke comes to say Princess Leia, it's like, and Princess Leia's like, "Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?" And he responds with, "Well, her the same height, so how are we supposed to know?" Like, just kind of breaking the fourth wall just a little bit. And I love, I don't care how many times video games, TV shows, whatever, movies break the fourth wall. It's always clever and it's really hilariously done well. Um, so like,
yeah.
and that was the thing about the some of the cutscenes. Like, yeah, there wasn't a lot of dialogue, which I kind of think they missed on that part. But it almost thought to me like like the first renditions of the Lego movies. It felt to me as Mr. Bean. Like you're watching a Mr. Bean movie in Lego form. Because Mr. Bean doesn't talk a lot, but he does a lot of actions and does stuff, and that's what the Star Wars did. They had funny little things like Obi-Wan goes to light his lightsaber and it's not working, so he's like smashing it and all this, and Qui-Gon and Darth Maul are just kind of like looking at each other like, are we doing this? Like, come on. And Obi-Wan's just kind of like, come on. And then of course they do that in Clone Wars where Obi-Wan has problems with his lightsaber and he's just fiddling around with it while Anakin's dealing with a Gundar.
Oh right. See, I think that a lot of the people who want it to be just the complete saga remade, those people are really they're 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 looking at those old Lego games with rose tinted. Like they are a lot of fun, but I think that The Force Awakens is a genuinely better game. in terms of like a Lego game. And I think if it's done in that style, it will honestly be better. Sure, I think it would be funny if there was an option for having just like the grunts and stuff like that, like in the old games, but being genuinely mad that they're like voice acting the game is pretty stupid, if I'm being honest. Like you're setting unrealistic expectations at this point.
Yeah. So
Oh well, I think we're basically wrapped up here.
yeah, no, I think so too. Like we basically talked about the games we liked, what we wanted to see. Um, yeah, so I guess with that being said, we're probably wrapping things up. Anything else you wanted to add before we finish up here?
Um, I mean, other than the Clone Wars being absolutely incredible, like it never left, which actually there are a couple mini details about that. Um, the base that they're on is the same base that Hera and Sabine go to in season one of Rebels.
Yes, and you
And
in the background you can actually see some of the creatures.
yeah, the little bat monsters. Yeah,
Yeah.
those things. Love those guys.
Well,
So
and the cool thing about this is that because it's on Disney Plus, like, uh, I guess we'll briefly talk about the new episode. So, the cool thing about it is because they don't have to abide to commercials, it's a bit longer. It's 23 minutes long instead of the normal 22 or something like that.
yeah, they because the episode is more or less the exact same as it was in the unfinished story reel
Yeah,
version.
there were a couple of different changes. Like when Anakin says, "Is that all, Rex?" and Rex is just like, "No, sir." But you could kind of sense that Anakin, being a Jedi and stuff, just kind of, okay, I don't believe you're telling me the whole truth. And I think the reveal, spoiler alert for those who haven't seen the unfinished or haven't seen this new one, the reveal of Echo, because obviously the Bad Batch, like, and I do remember saying this, that the Bad Batch was going to be the first arc, and then it was going to be Ahsoka leaving the temple, then it was going to be Siege of Mandalore, because I thought that was a perfect thing, and sure enough, it is going to be that. So I think point for me on nailing that. um, and Clone Wars is going to be remade, or Bad Batch going to be made, and having that extra scene, like the extra scene of Rex and Cody just kind of saying they're like, we've lost so many brothers. Like, what is this war really come to? And I think when in the trailer, like Rex says, even us clones are conflicted about this war because without this war, there wouldn't be us. I think that's going to happen in the Bad Batch sequence.
Yeah. The thing is, I think that conversation specifically, I think, is either Anakin or Ahsoka. But in general, I do really love that new scene that they added between Rex and Cody.
Oh
I
yeah,
think it does sort of, ruin the surprise at the end of the episode. But I mean, at the same time, this has been out for years now. We already know. But
yeah, but
I
it's
do.
still kind of like, and this is where like the theory that because there was a theory going around that Rex was defective, um, and not in the defective of 99 defective, just in tactical thinking, and the fact that we make a plan, it's very effective. All of a sudden, it's not effective anymore. We have to change the plan, and they're constantly countering. How is that so? Cody's now thinking, oh, what if Echo's alive? And or Rex is thinking that, and Cody's like, no, you can't be serious. Like, quit thinking like that. And it's like, well, now it's true, and that's the thing. Only Rex knows now because Cody wasn't with them during that battle.
Well, and Tech does too.
Well,
I think.
Tech has no idea who Echo is.
Yeah, but he does know that it's a clone.
Yeah.
So that he means something to Rex. But I do like how the scene between Rex and Cody, you see Cody is still the rigid, don't question, like, yeah, it sucks we've lost our brothers, but this is what we were made for. Whereas Rex has genuine survival. He's like really torn apart. Even like obviously Umbara was where it really came to the forefront, but now with the Bad Batch, we're seeing it again. He's
Well,
genuinely torn.
Yeah, and the fact that he hid that information from Anakin is also another key moment of now my number one commander clone I can't trust now because he's keeping stuff from me. So of course it's now adding on to the whole the Jedi keep secrets from me, the clones are keeping secrets from me. And I think it's kind of a little subtle nod to, this is what's gonna happen to lead Anakin more to the dark side. And like I think Anakin's dark side or turn to the dark side is now more meaningful because of these Clone War episodes.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty funny to think about is that if it was Ahsoka standing there instead of Anakin, he would have come clean. Like, I think that the bond that Rex and Ahsoka has is way deeper than the one he has with Anakin. Like, sure, they are probably the clone and Jedi with the best relationship, but he is so much more connected to Ahsoka than to Anakin, and even like completely ignoring like Rebel stuff like that, and the Siege of Mandalore coming up. Just at this point in Star Wars, is Ahsoka means more to him than Anakin does.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just completely speculating about this, but from what I've seen, it really looks like it. Where like he is a lot more honest with her than he is with Anakin, and this just goes to show more of it.
Yeah, and and like that's why another reason why I love Clone Wars and is the fact of like we're getting to the end here, and after these 12 episodes, that's it. It's like
And it's gonna rip me apart just as bad as it did when it was canceled. Actually, probably worse, because that one I was just genuinely pissed off. This one, it's gonna be, well, now it's officially wrapped up.
yeah, and I think like from my understanding is they had a couple of things to plan after Order 66 and stuff, like I think a season or two. So they're just kind of wrapping up the most important season. I do know that the unfinished stuff of the Utapau uh, arc, I did enjoy that one. I thought it was funny. I thought it was clever, and it really showed because there's a scene with Anakin and Obi-Wan where as this is like just recently after Ahsoka left, and they even mentioned like why would she leave? Like this just doesn't make any sense. How can you spend your whole life being part of the Jedi Order and just turn your back? And and it's like, well, yeah, but we also did the same. It's like exactly. So it leads more to Anakin's betrayal and stuff, and just my favorite moment of the entire thing. And even though it's not finished, I would have loved to see it in fully finished when they're taking the whole Kyber crystal, taking it across. General Grievous sees it, and Obi Wan just looks over, sees General Grievous, smiles and waves. I think that is just a funny Obi Wan trolling moment, like he does the entire series. Because literally, there's like a 15-minute video on YouTube of literally just Obi-Wan trolling everybody.
Yeah. I think that there are a couple things I would have loved to see in the Clone Wars before it finished that probably won't be able to be covered in just this last season, where we have two clones who I genuinely want to see brought back into canon, who are Devis and Neo. Not Neo. Fordo. We already had Neo. Um, like Devis, he looks pretty much like Bly, but red instead of yellow. And Fordo was, before Rex came along, Fordo was the undisputed best clone. Rex has sort of taken that spot.
Oh,
I think
this is from the
them,
Clone Wars 2D show, isn't it?
yeah, having them come back in some capacity would have been beautiful. Having the saber somewhere in the show would be amazing, because I'm genuinely annoyed that it is having seen the Peltas again, because those frigates are awesome. What else was there? The Falchian tanks, I think I mentioned them earlier. Those things need to come back, because we literally only saw the Zillo Beast episode. Like,
Yeah,
the
like Like we didn't get a finished thing. Like I've even tried to search it. Like what happens to the Zillibees after? Like we know it that Palpatine wanted it to be cloned, and then that's all we've heard of it.
Yeah,
So
I think Thrawn Alliances, the novel, sort of does something similar to what we thought Palpatine was going to do with the Zillobeast, but it's a thing. It's just this like special metal they were putting into clone armor so that it would be resistant to lightsabers. That's what we know Palpatine was going to do with the Zillobeast, but he never did that. In Thrawn Alliances, it's this other type of metal.
mm,
So that was kind of a missed opportunity, I think. So we have yet to know what happened to the bloody Zillobeast.
yeah. Well, I think with that, I mean we stayed on topic for the most part. But again, you know, it doesn't always happen where we stay on target. Where we not stay on target. Stay on topic. So- sorry, what
I
was
mean,
that?
it's just about 2 a.m., so who really cares about staying on top?
Yeah, you know, we get tired of that point. So yeah, if you enjoyed this podcast, be sure to give a like and subscribe. Um, I have a Facebook page. It's under the same name as my YouTube, which is Chaos1391. Uh, if you have any topics that you want to hear us talk about, feel free to give me a message there or at Tristan's Twitter handle, um, which is CT Irons. Is that correct?
Yep, at CT_irons.
Okay. I thought I knew it was that. I just didn't know the proper pronunciation. So yeah, if you want to hear us talk about different stuff, we're open to the idea of we want to basically hear your comments and being able to be open about stuff. We're in the talks of possibly seeing about bringing guests onto our podcast. So if you guys want to hear some other people, other than just us two nerds rambling on, give a like and give a comment and stuff, and maybe we can work out where we can have special guests. We can maybe reach out, you know, because I know that James Arnold Taylor, the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi, does a podcast. So maybe we can find a way to reach out to him because I think that would be kind of cool.
I think if we could bring on Jon Favreau and yell at him for an hour about the dark saber, that would be fun.
Or Dave Filoni, that would be another fun one.
I'm sad about that.
So, you know, do a little interview and call it the Filoni Files.
You killed Queel, you monster.
Queel was the best. We have spoken. Yeah, so like I said, if you enjoyed it, give it a like, subscribe, comment down below. Anything that you enjoyed, anything you didn't like, you know, let us know so that way we can improve on this. That being said, I'm Chaos. This is my good buddy Tristan. And yeah, we'll sign out and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Take care now.
Bye.